One of only 3 players in Georgia Tech football history to capture a national award, Durant Brooks won the Ray Guy Award as college football's top punter in 2007. The Macon, Georgia native was named a first-team All-American in 2007 as a senior and a second-team All-American as a junior in 2006. Brooks still holds the Tech career record for punting average, and his mark of 45.3 yards per punt is nearly 4 yards greater than the next closest figure.
The first time that I met Durant, he was introduced to me as Georgia Tech's new holder. Durant has got to be one of the most unlikely candidates to grace the stage tonight. He was not a recruited or highly ranked high school punter. In fact, basketball was his sport of choice. He credits his leg strength to riding horses with his mom, and when he did practice punting, it was on his dad's family hayfield. Now, what's even harder to believe than the success that Durant was able to achieve was that during the height of his punting career, he actually tore his right hip flexor. So during his entire senior season, he was in so much pain he could not even punt in practice and was actually only punting in the game. When I first met Durant, he was humble, he was genuine, he was kind. He stayed that way throughout his success, and now he's even better because he's the most supportive husband and the most amazing and involved dad to our 2 girls. Now tonight, I have the great pleasure, instead of introducing him as Georgia Tech's holder, to introduce him as the best punter in Georgia Tech history and a Georgia Tech Hall of Fame inductee.
He was selected to play in the Senior Bowl following his final season and was taken in the 6th round of the 2008 NFL Draft by the Washington Redskins. Brooks currently lives in Norcross and is a sales engineer for Barty Heating, Cooling, and Plumbing.
For those of you that know my wife, you would definitely say I outkicked my coverage. Natanya was a swimmer at Georgia Tech, where she broke several Georgia Tech records, including the 50 freestyle, while also graduating with highest honors in only 3 years. I, on the other hand, took 5, but I'd say we average out at 4. She went to Emory Law School and is now a trial attorney. So yes, I don't win any arguments either. Our 2 girls, Harper, who's 4.5, and Macy, who's 10 months, who's asleep over there, thankfully, are my pride and joy. While they both have a long time before college, we both hope they'll be Yellow Jackets just like their parents. I'm so honored to be here tonight, and I owe my success to so many people who have helped me along the way. First and foremost, I want to thank my mom and dad. My mom always taught me that if you fall, you need to get right back up and try again. Keep pushing on. Before I worked out in the gym, I was riding horses with my mom. One ride, I fell from my horse after he just cleared a jump, and he just stood there and looked at me, wondering why I was laying on the ground instead of sitting on his back. My mom comes over to jump next and says, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Yes, I'm fine." She says, "Well, get back on and let's go." I think I was only 8 years old at the time. I also got my determination and independent side from her. I like to try and figure things out on my own, no matter how many times it takes, and she's the same way. I was this way with punting. I would punt for hours on my own, trying to find the best technique until I got it right. She's always been there to support me and to tell me to keep trying when things get tough. Thank you. My dad was my first and best coach I had. He's been a coach for over 40 years and is still coaching today. He was the coach of my school. He coached me at football, basketball, and baseball. Little leagues, pee-wees, elementary, all the way to high school. There were many late nights and early mornings in the gym. Either him or one of the other coaches would have to turn out the lights just so I'd leave. And he never treated me different than any other player. Except sometimes he might have been a little harder on me. But it wasn't just sports that he mentored me in. He had life lessons that built a lot of character in me. He always taught me to work harder than your competition and to strive to be your best at anything you do. Always give 100%. My dad, along with my stepmom, Debbie, have been some of my biggest supporters on this journey. And growing up, I was lucky to be part of some good teams. In high school, our football team won state my freshman and junior years. We were state runners-up my sophomore year. In my senior year, we went undefeated until we lost in the playoffs. Needless to say, I didn't punt much. So instead, I worked on playing receiver, tight end, safety, and other special teams positions. During my junior year in high school, my mom introduced me to Ray Guy and his punting camps. Ray is considered to be the best punter of all time and happens to live close to my mom. By chance, he was looking for a horse for his daughter, and my mom had one for sale. She mentioned to him that I was punting, and he said, "Hey, you should come to one of my camps." So I signed up for one that summer and one other before I came to Tech, and his camps were the only lessons I ever received on punting. After high school, my uncle set me up with my first job in St. Simons. My first task was to scrape barnacles off the bottom of the boats, and I definitely learned what it meant to be the low guy on the totem pole. After a day of work, I would go to any open field that I could find and punt a few footballs. It was hard to find enough space to punt on St. Simons, so one afternoon, I went to the local airport to practice. The airport has 2 runways, and I thought they were only using one that day, so I set up next to the one I thought they weren't using. But I was wrong. I kicked a few nice, high, spiraling punts, and then I saw this truck come barreling towards me. I said, "Oh no." This guy shouts out the window, "Hey kid, what are you doing?" I just said, "Practicing punting," like nothing was out of the ordinary. He quickly yelled at me to leave, and I'm probably the only person to ever try and punt at an airport. After the summer was over, I packed up and went to Georgia Military College in Millersville, where I spent the next 2 years living in barracks built in 1940 that had no AC and no doors on the bathroom stalls. I think my roommate and I had 11 fans going on at one time just to try and keep cool in the summer. We got yelled at by drill sergeants constantly, marched in formation during the middle of the night, and had inspections every day. There was no cleaning crew. We had to clean our own barracks, including the bathrooms. We had 10 p.m. curfews during the week and 11 on the weekend. We also ate in a cafeteria that was a morgue for the military. No joke. Oh yeah, I was also trying to play football and make the team. We had many that couldn't take it and had to quit. I just put my head down and did what I was supposed to do to make it through. At GMC, I was able to focus just on punting for the first time. And going through the military training, I was able to focus more on things that I could control and not on things that I couldn't. When I enrolled at Tech, I had 92 hours of credits after 2 years at GMC. However, Tech only accepted 35 of those hours. And that was only after our advisor, Doug, begged admissions to accept my chemistry credits. I mean, I took the hardest classes available at GMC, but let's just say their academic standards aren't on the same level as Tech. I remember going through civil engineering orientation with my dad that year. We were going from class to class, and each time the teacher was like, "Have you taken this class? Have you taken that class?" And my response was usually no. GMC just didn't offer those classes. Doug called me later that day and said, "I have your classes. You're taking management." I said, "Doug, what about civil engineering?" He said, "Well, with your credit hours, you can either take management and play football, or you can take civil engineering and not be able to play football." I didn't give it another thought. My dad and I packed up our stuff, and we headed to the football offices to get our courses. I think I made the right decision. I want to thank Coach Gailey for giving me a chance at Georgia Tech. I came to Tech as a walk-on. My first number they gave me was 108. 108. Yeah, it actually said that on my shorts and my shirt. I even had to share a locker. Our special teams coach is Coach Kelly. For the both of us, this is the first year to D1 school playing or coaching. I think and Coach Kelly was different than most coaches, and I think the first thing he told us at our practice was, "Guys, I don't know anything about kicking, punting, or snapping." Most coaches wouldn't say that about the position they were supposed to be coaching. Instead, he listened to us about what would work and let us pick the drills. And Coach Kelly also brought a new style of punt formation to Tech. And we weren't sure about it at the time because no one really did it. But it worked great. And probably 99% of colleges use this spread formation now. I'm already cracking up here. They always say, where there's a great punter, there's a great long snapper. At least that's what my long snapper Brett White said. I don't remember a single bad snap. I hardly remember having to spin the laces out on field goals when I was a holder, as you saw in the highlight video. I could just catch it and put it down. However, some announcers did say I pulled down a high snap or two, and that might have been confirmed in the film room. Once Brett snapped me the ball, I had to have 9 other guys do their job by making their blocks and running downfield to make the tackle. And I say 9 because we all knew Brett wasn't going to make it. Just kidding. And I was the last defense if the return guy made it through, and that never happened. Out of 144 punts, I think the longest return was only 18 yards. My proudest memory on the flats came in our homecoming game against Miami in 2006. It came down to the last 29 seconds. We were up by 1 score, but had to punt the ball back to Miami. Their punt block team came at me in an all-out rush. I boomed one down the field, and their returner had to run backwards to try and make the catch. By the time he was under the ball, we already had 3 or 4 guys in his face. He ended up dropping the ball, re-recovered it, and actually sealed the win on a punt. And it still gets me excited talking about it today. I had the pleasure of working out in the weight room under GT and NFL great Eddie Lee Ivory. He was part of our strength and conditioning team. If you were dragging into an early morning workout, Eddie Lee would get you fired up by revving out 225 without warming up or running sprints with us without stretching. He'd always taunt me with this picture he had of my wife and her friend where they were flexing their arms after a workout. Yeah. He would say, Brooks, man, her arms are bigger than yours. I just laughed because it was probably true, as you can see. I just told him I didn't kick a ball with my arms. I think I got him back for those comments one day, not on purpose, but when he was at practice and he tried to catch one of my punts. I don't think he was expecting it to go as high as it did. He did catch it, but at a price, a broken finger. Many of you in the Tech family know Tom Dozier. Tom is a Yellow Jacket through and through, and he was the first person to get me interested in Tech. He brought me to my first Tech basketball game back in high school. It was an amazing experience, and I couldn't believe the atmosphere. There was this great player lighting up the court named B.J. Elder. You. Yeah, crazy. I never would have dreamed that I'd be standing here giving my Hall of Fame speech 15 years later next to B.J. and these other great athletes. It's just amazing. The opportunities I was afforded at Georgia Tech opened many doors for me. I went to the NFL Combine, the Senior Bowl, and was drafted by Washington. However, playing in the NFL never compared to my experiences at Georgia Tech. We were a family. We won together. We lost together. Even after football, Georgia Tech has continued to open doors for me. I just celebrated my 6-year anniversary at Barty Mechanical. Mr. Barty, a Tech grad, hired me in 2011. At my interview, we mostly talked about football, so it went well. Along the way, I've also met so many Tech grads in my industry, and some of them can still remember me from my playing days. I want to thank Georgia Tech for this great honor, and my family and friends taking up 3 tables over here for being here tonight. It's truly awesome. Thank you, and go Jackets.